Hello and welcome back to Cannon Chatter TV. I am your host Lee and we are back on Cannon Chatter Island. Today I am joined by Chat Along regular and women's show pundit Matt Roberts. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, thank you. It's good to be back. It's been a long time since I've been back on the channel and we've been doing chat alongs. So it's nice to be back and saying hello to everyone again because it's been a bit of a long sort of summer for everyone, hasn't it?
It certainly has, mate. It's been a lot going on as well, hasn't it? It's been busy times, transfers, tournaments going on, which I'm sure we might talk about later on. It's a lot going on, and it's like you say, it's nice to be in touch with everybody again, and it's good to be putting out something a little bit different. So, anyone who hasn't seen episode 1, this is episode 2 of the series. This is where I invite my illustrious guest over to Cannon Chatter Island, if you like, where mysteriously we've ended up on this island with a DVD player and electricity and a television, so we can miraculously watch 3 football matches of my guest's choice. We'll go through these matches and what they mean to the guest, and we'll throw in a couple of extras as well. We're going to talk about a piece of music or an album and a luxury item. So, Matt, where would you like to start tonight? Would you like to talk about your first match and why you've picked it for our DVD?
Yeah, so I thought about this long time trying to think of a third match, and I felt that a lot of the games I go to, even if it was my first ever game was actually Barnet playing at Underhill. Now they've moved over to the Hive, and now that's been moved. The stadium's not there anymore, which is a bit of a shame, really. But even though I've got so many memories of teams playing, going and watching matches, one that always sticks out for me as there's nothing quite like a European night. And when I was very lucky enough when Southampton were playing in the Europa League to go to their game against Inter Milan.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So for those that gone.
Interesting one to start with. So this was at what sort of time period are we talking about there, mate?
This would have been 2016 to 2017 season. So
Okay.
this would have been this would have been October 2016. So Southampton at that time, they would have had Mane, they would have had Van Dijk, Fraser Forster was in goal, James Ward-Prowse still in the team, Stephen Davies. I don't think who else was in that team. Shane Long, who's now not there. There was a lot of really good talent, and that was a side that actually got to the League Cup final that year as well, which I was lucky enough to go to against Manchester United. But what was special about that game was that that Milan's quite a special team anyway, and when you go 1-0 down to them, you were against a club that probably you wouldn't have heard of before. You wouldn't expect them to go, right, we got this in the bag. Southampton it was almost like they had a second or third gear. They were just, right, okay, we're 1-0 down. And then it was just fantastic. I've never seen a stadium bounce as much as on previous experience. I've been to the Emirates for European nights, and it's been quite nice. But when you're 1-0 down to a European giant and you're willing your team on like that, it gets you going. It gets you realizing that within European football, anything's possible. Unfortunately, the Irish fans, or I think it was Derry, when they played Arsenal in the last time the Europa League, it's a bit of a shame that they didn't get the full Emirates experience in the end because of the fan situation, wasn't it? But I'd imagine if they were able to witness a 60,000, I think they would have overtaken the Emirates I have seen before with funny enough, our first Europa League game with Cologne. But I think what makes this one more special is that you got to see some of these players step up a little bit more. And I remember one of my favourite moments will always be Virgil van Dijk just going, right, nothing's going for me, and he just went charging forwards. And he went, right, okay, if no one's going to sort this out, I'm going to go forward. I'm going to go and get the goal. And they did get the goal in the end. And then, like right before the end as well, in the most Southampton way possible, they went and scored the second to get the winner. And it was a bit lucky that it was a deflection for an own goal, but that deflection nearly got them into the quarterfinal. It would have been the quarterfinals at that point because this was the group stage. Unfortunately, they lost the last game against Tel Aviv. No, not Tel Aviv. It was one of the Israel teams.
Okay.
But it was just that night. If anyone was thinking about how would you sum up European football and not using the Liverpool example of the 3-3 in Istanbul, I would look at something like that. Maybe how Rangers performed as well last season as well. If that was the sort of that's what European football means to a club. That's what European football brings, and it's great to see as well. You get those upsets as well.
Absolutely, I totally agree with what you say there. European football, European nights are something special, whether it be Emirates, Wembley, anywhere. It's just different quality. I've got a memory of speaking to French fans at Wembley in French when I could remember some of it back then. So just mixing and wearing the colours and representing the club, it was a good time, and it's really interesting. You're picking a Southampton match as well. That's really it hit me a bit left field, even on the get go. But it's a really interesting one to start with, and that was the Southampton side that they had Callum Chambers there as well. By the way, they might have done.
No, Callum Chambers would have been. Yeah, actually, no, he would have. He wouldn't have been. I think he moved that summer.
Oh, okay. It was just before he's right.
Yeah. He's got to be the longest service player in the club now.
Yeah, but he would have been had he not moved to Aston Villa.
Oh, yes, that's true. The things you forget.
Blimmin' YouTube. What's it like, eh?
Rob Holding. That's who I'm thinking of. Rob Holding and
takes your brain away. It's all right. We've got no live chat today, mate. They won't correct us. No one even noticed. It's fine. So we'll move on from our first match in Southampton. We'll talk about maybe album piece of music that we could listen to and reminisce about some happy times maybe. Well, what have you got for me?
Well, this was quite a hard one actually. I was just trying to name things that I like. I quite like. One I could have quite easily picked one of my favorite bands, Imagine Dragons. Great out. They do great albums, and just they've come on leaps and bounds. The lead singer is very, even though he's Mormon and their beliefs aren't there, he's very pro LGBT community.
Yeah.
So I could have quite easily gone with that and things like that. But then I was thinking about some of the things that I've grown up with. What have I listened to? I've been lucky enough to grow up. I'd probably say a bit spoilt for choice, really, because I've been able to listen to some great 80s music, some great 90s music, growing up in the noughties as well, and even into the 2010s. To be honest, I couldn't name a chart single in the top 40 right now. But just thinking about, thinking about it all, I think I'll go for. I've got three down there as my top three, but I think of these.
I knew you'd have a list. I knew you would.
Of these top three, I think I would say the Queen greatest hits.
Yay! I've been listening to some of that today, strangely, at Tesco Towers. Any particular track on that album?
Well, you know what, I do. A couple of months ago, I went back to go. They were doing the tour of "We Will Rock You." It's been ages since I've seen that, and the way they've changed it as well and made it more. They've added bits and pieces to it. So where there's a scene where they're supposed to have protected ... shall we say, they put masks on, like COVID masks.
Right.
So it's little things like that make it a little bit unique. But one of the songs that always sticks out to me is "Hammer to Fall."
Okay. Wow,
But
interesting.
There are a lot of songs from Queen that I always like. You could probably name them all, to be honest, and be like, yeah, I enjoy that. I think as well, it'll be not. We've been kind of spoiled a little bit as well, because there's been the Bohemian Rhapsody film as well, hasn't there? There's been obviously Queen, We Will Rock You, and now Albert Lambert's touring with them. So it'll be quite nice. The other two that I had on there is actually similar sort of things. Is Bon Jovi and Meatloaf.
Oh, I'd do anything for love, but I wouldn't do that. Oh no, and that wasn't planned either. So it's one I just keep just there, just in case. I think Queen's a great choice. Queen's an absolute banging choice. I saw a video of Queen. It was Brian May, actually, in particular. He's on the stage with his guitar. Now, it's an obscure Queen song. I'm sure it is. I can't be sure certain what it is, but obviously he's doing his thing on the guitar, and they got a hologram of Freddie onto the stage, and literally at the end of the song, they're shaking hands with each other. It's one of the most poignant videos. It's only a 2-3 minute clip that I saw, and obviously my generation. I grew up with Freddie. I've got very strong memories of everything from that time, and it really hit us when we lost Freddie far too soon. It really hit me in the heart, you know. But it's a Queen, great album. Well, something that I will always stick on to cheer me up and get me through the day. So it's good stuff.
I think that's the thing as well, is that people, even in my generation, they recognise legends when they're not there anymore.
Yeah.
So David Bowie, Bob Marley as well. Bob Marley was huge when I was in school. I don't know why. I think it was because of people. Just let's just say the certain lifestyle that he had, or the certain beliefs that he had, maybe why. But there was always something that you felt was special about Queen. It didn't matter that the front man was gay. It didn't matter that half of them could have ended up being a scientist or fixing cars. I think as well is that the music videos, I know at the time, "I Want to Break Free," that was groundbreaking as well. The fact that they were
all in costume.
Yeah, all in costume, cross-dressing, and they just went along with it. I was just like, it doesn't even go past you anymore. You go, oh, okay, that's fine. And that was the similar sort. I would imagine that was how it was at the time as well. Was that we just rolled with it. You just didn't. You didn't say no, that's not right, or it'd be cancelled.
You
just get that sense that it's there to be watched and enjoyed. It's nothing like too serious anymore.
Yeah, and for me as well, Queen was all about the drama, the performance on the stage as well, either concert or like you say, in one of them, the groundbreaking videos they done. There's just such as the story to be told, and Freddie was absolutely the best in putting that energy into the screen for me. So brilliant choice. I enjoyed that.
Even even if you go back on some of the videos now, even the Wembley videos that you can get on YouTube, they're amazing.
The other day.
It's brilliant just to do that, and you get all this from them. You wouldn't see it from probably anyone else. I can imagine.
Yeah, I mean Wembley, Live Aid. What was it? I watched this literally at my mum's place, literally about 2 weeks ago. It was which one was it? It was We Will Rock You. I'm sure it was. And you just see that, everyone's pitch level, aren't they? And they're doing all the claps and the hands in the air and everything. What a spectacle! What a sight that was! It was good stuff. What was that? That must have been 1985, I think, off the top of my head. Yes, it was. Wow. Okay, cool. So we'll go back onto the football side of things now, shall we?
Yeah.
And we'll go for match 2 on our DVD.
Funnily enough, this is my second choice actually, so I've gone from backwards to forwards. So I think it's always special to acknowledge your first match. As I mentioned already, there's been so many that I could have mentioned. I could have mentioned going to Kettering Town. Actually, I will go into that a little bit. There was a nice little story there. Kettering used to play in the conference, so the league above, where Posh's favourite second team play. And Kettering got Newport County on the opening day of the season. Newport County go 1-0 up, and the fans start shouting 1-0 to that boom because we're PG. But if because of the Welshness, you might understand. If you're not Welsh, you don't need to worry about it.
No, but I think I get where you're going.
It was quite fun. And after that, they're chanting away, singing that, and then by full time, Kettering scored 5, so it ended up being 5-1. So, and then my first ever game was actually Barnet versus Leigh at Underhill, and that was also 5-1. And Leigh scored first as well in that one, so it was a bit of a lucky charm. I remember going to my first Arsenal game, which was a League Cup game against Newcastle as well at the Emirates. Unfortunately, I never got to go to Highbury, which kind of is annoying because I go past certain points and I just go, I would love to have seen the game here, but just never got the opportunity. And you got this kind of feeling around. I'm quite local to Liverpool, so Everton at the moment, they're doing their stadium up at the moment. And their fans are counting down the days until when their last game is going to be, because then they're going to be in the same situation as us in the future. It won't be we're at Goodison Park anymore. We're going to be at the Branley Moor Dock.
Right. That's going to be weird, isn't it? So it was hard enough me adjusting from Highbury.
But it's like a 2-mile difference to go from Goodison. And I know a lot of my friends up here, they are Evertonians, and they do talk about that quite a lot. But it will feel strange for them coming through. But one of my first, but it's a bit off the gas there. But
that's all right.
One of my favourite games will always be my first women's football match, and that was the WSL, I should say, because the first actual women's game I went to was, funny enough, the unis. What do they call them? The unis play each other in like varsity match. That's what they call them. Okay. And the women took on Bournemouth Uni, and the women just tore them apart like 6-7-0, and there was screams left, right, and centre. And it was so good to watch. But one of my favourite one, I'll have to say, was you always remember your first away day. And if you could pick any away day that you want to go to, that would kind of sum up where the WSL could be now in the next few years, would be going to Villa Park Saturday early kickoff, and just watching Arsenal play Aston Villa. It was a really interesting game. for me, being it my first game, so I didn't know where to go. The traveling there, getting there, all fine. One of the best things Aston Villa do is they actually have like flags from the station all the way to the ground to say this is where you need to go, and it's brilliant because yeah, I can't think of many stadiums where you can say for certain unless you've been there before. That kind of helps, or you have to look at your phone to get the maps out and things like that. But it was brilliant for that. And the game itself, I think there was only like 8,000 fans there in a 30,000 seater stadium, but still, it also confuses me as well because one of the stands is right over built over a road.
Right.
I think it's the whole end. So you basically got the three stands sort of on one side, and then you just got this road, and then you've got like these two little pillars just outside the whole end, which are holding up the rest of this stand. I was just thinking that's not safe at all. But
it's an old stadium, isn't it, Villa Park? So.
It was just like only in Birmingham would you find that a stadium that's built over a road. It's
right. It's the same over Colchester. Literally, it's literally over the A12.
Oh wow!
Yeah. Sorry, it's very warm here on Cannon Chatter Island today. I have to apologise. I'm literally shining on the camera. Oh, I wish I could use my fan, mate. I tell you. But the fans have a go. No, I'm joking. So so we'll talk about the women's game a little bit, and I think this might sort of lead on to match 3 in a little bit as well. But for me, it's really interesting, being very, very new, still very new to watching the women's game. It's really interesting to see the standard of football being played. I mean, I've watched most of the second half of the Arsenal WSL this season, and it really, really impressed me. I've got to learn players very, very quickly because I've had to. Because I wanted to get the knowledge. I wanted to get the things right, especially when we do our live chat alongs and all this sort of stuff. You can't be doing that and not knowing the players, mate. I can tell you, I get in all sorts of trouble. But it's really, really, really been fun to watch as well. And if anyone is new into watching WSL or watching us here, and welcome in if you are new. It's definitely worth giving them a chance, especially with all the publicity that's coming out after what's gone on in the summer.
Yeah, and 100%, because I think people have now realised that the product there is a desire for it now, and even I work as a coach, so even seeing these things happen, and at the moment we're doing the free school meals, and there's still not a lot of girls there, but there's one girl there that's willing to take part some of the times, but that's fine. It's about trying to find these girls and trying to make sure that they are aware of what that they've got around them. I know that there's been a lot of social action as well, call to arms, tell them that to start playing games. I know growing up, especially in school, so I went to a 3-tier school system. So in middle school, the girls didn't do football until year 7 and 8 onwards. So it was only about 3 years that they would have done football. So by the time that there was always a few that you knew liked football and wanted to play, but they wouldn't play with the boys. They just wouldn't. They didn't even know if there was going to be a league. They wouldn't know if there was any teams or anything like that. Eventually, someone in my year, she asked her dad to coach a team, and she got players in the year below and a few other friends and things like that knew that would want to play, and that's how they started. And
amazing.
It's amazing to see that it takes small little things like that. And even I know you've got your daughters, I've got my nieces as well, and I've started them out a little bit younger, trying to get them kits and things like that, and they're running around in the kits and feeling a bit happy and everything because the dad's an Arsenal fan, I'm an Arsenal fan, the mum's an Arsenal fan, but she doesn't really care that much about football. But
my wife's the same, mate. She
but
tolerates it, but bless her heart, she does.
I couldn't tell you the names for the life of you, but it's things like
my wife will tell you there's stuff that she doesn't even realise she knows, and she'll talk about it. Mind you, it's probably me shouting at the telly that she knows it. So it's on me. I'm sorry.
That's the thing, though, isn't it? Is that at least they got to be made aware that there is something there for them. It doesn't have to be just there's a small little thing called the Women's Super League anymore. Like the sort of misogyny. I know a lot of people said about their opinions of women's football has changed, and especially even with the Commonwealth as well. I think that's probably even progressed it even more. I think you couldn't have timed two better events to be held in England at the right time.
Yeah, completely, mate. Completely. So the standard of the tournament we've just been watching, had the privilege of watching some of it with you guys behind the scenes, and it was really fun to watch. And I'm from a generation. You say the girls couldn't get into until year 7, right?
Yeah,
I'm from a generation, so I'm a wee bit older than you, but I don't even recall the girls given the option. The boys are taken over to play in the football and the rugby and all that sort of thing, and they're playing netball and hockey and whatever else it might be. And it's just, it's just you look back and think, well, hold on a minute, surely you've got to have a choice of what you want to do. And that's what's sport and life in general. You just do what you want to do and express yourself in the way you want to do so. And it's just nice. We get in high profile people like our very own Ian Wright and the likes, giving it the publicity, the attention it actually deserves, and hopefully you'll get the importance of getting it in base level. Like sort of my daughter's she's 10 in there, she's a good age to, and she even has a little kick around with her old dad every now and then, and she run rings around me. She's got skills. I ain't. I got the gift of gab, but I can't play for toffee, mate. But it's fun, and it's the opportunity to someone like that to go out there and do their thing. It's just really good to see. Got a feeling this might sort of this conversation might carry on into match number 3, but we'll stick a pin in it for now.
Yeah,
we'll come back to it, because when we go to Cannon Chatter Island, we also have our guests bringing in a luxury item. It doesn't matter the practicality of it. This is Posh brought his computer along, so we've just gone on there is send help. No, after watching obviously Cannon Chatter on YouTube, and other channels are available. But I'm really curious to see what you've got for me as the luxury item, mate.
Yes, I thought about this long a lot, and I thought it would be quite nice to show off something that I don't really do a lot anymore, or because we're now in a technical age sort of thing. So instead of, I could have quite easily turned around like Bertie said and bring a computer, bring gaming consoles or something like that.
Yeah.
But I thought it'd be quite nice to do. It would be quite nice to just have a load of books that I could just sit and read.
Anything in particular? Is there a whole? Is there a writer? Or is there a series of books?
Oh, there's so
anything
many.
You like, mate.
There's so many. See, this is the thing, is that growing in that sort of noughties to 10s, you had a great selection of books as well. And then ended up being film adaptations. So not just Harry Potter. You had.
That's where my head was going to go there. That's where I thought you were going to go.
Yeah, one of my favorite authors actually is Rick Riordan, and one of my favorite things about his books, he started with, you may have heard of it, Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, and that started his sort of mythology series, and then he's gone on and done different series about Greek mythology, a little bit on Roman mythology. He's now focusing on Celtic mythology, but it's all things that you kind of think, you know what, I kind of like that. I just like the idea, and the way he tells a story is brilliant, and I like the story as well, because growing up, and you think there's something wrong with you, or you're not able to do certain things like others do because you're considered not normal. I'll put that in quotes.
I know where you're going. I know exactly what you mean. You can elaborate if you want, mate. I know what you mean.
I was diagnosed a little bit later than most people that I was actually dyspraxic, and funny enough, the reason why Percy Jackson was around was because Rick wrote it especially for his son, who was actually dyslexic. For those that don't know, dyspraxic is basically your coordination. You're not good on your feet or things like that. You might trip over yourself every now and then, or especially if you're playing ball sports, which I struggle with quite a lot. If it's like a rounders or cricket or anything like that, I'm no good at that. I can do the catching, not a problem, but I wouldn't be able to do any of the other bits like throwing a ball properly. But when you're dyslexic, it's usually numbers or letters get wrong.
Yeah.
I think I'll tell this story, but I remember doing the spelling test. My mum tested me, and she said spell father, and I spelled it farter, FARTHER. So, and she always made me laugh. Like, no, that's definitely how you spell it. But it's things like that where, you know, again, because people have that experience now. And I think I'm also kind of grateful for those books, because not only is it making you a better person, but it's also making you realize that there are ways to be accepted, and you just got to find those people that will accept you. Unfortunately, it might take a while. I've kind of made it my goal to sort of try and make the world a little bit better for people with disabilities through football. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to do that, but I've been able to work with people with disabilities for when I was at uni, being a one-to-one, understanding them a little bit more, people with autism and things like that. And I picked up small things like Makaton, which is a type of signing. And it's amazing things that you can pick up, and if people are more open to it, they're more open to accept you. And I think if you haven't had those books or any of those sorts of books around, or you hadn't picked them up before, they might change your perspective, but they might not. But at least they're there for you if you want them to. And that's one thing I always keep with me. When I picked up that book, I didn't know anything about it. I just thought, oh, I like my Nick mythology. I'll read it. Oh, I like this, and then it goes more and more and more. And he's doing quite well as well. He's got a Disney Plus. He's part of the Disney Plus show now, which he's adapting into filming at the moment over in Vancouver. He's got his Egyptian series is going to be on a film over on Netflix. That's still in pre-production at the moment. So it's all going to be there in the future for these kids to go, hold on a minute. I might have autism, or I might be, say, Black and American, or I might be a refugee, for example, and recognize themselves through the screen, not just on paper anymore. And I think people won't realize that unless it was there, if it wasn't there. And I think, especially now with everything going on, people wanting to cancel people for things like that, small things. It's helpful to just realise that there is people out there trying to make stories to be as relatable as possible to you.
Do you know what, mate? Thank you so much for sharing that with us, mate. That was awesome. And you say you know we've spoken about this a couple of times. My daughter is autistic, and she finds social interaction a little bit difficult sometimes. And through a little bit of reading myself, I've got to understand the difficulties that she goes through a little bit better. It's made me feel like a little bit of a better person as well. So for someone to come on our stream like this and be open and you say you with what you do anyway, you do help many people. I'm sure you do in getting through in life with that, with still helping people with disabilities. That's an incredible thing to do, mate. So God bless you for that, and thank you so much for sharing that with us. That was awesome.
Well, I think these are things, though, isn't it? It's that when you're doing these things, is you want to know a little bit more about these people. I mean, how many times do you talk to someone and you don't really get the full picture? And it's great to see like things like this where you're asking for different things. So I thought I'd do something different. I know if I'd left the electrics at home, one thing for definitely, I'll make sure that I've got a pile of books that I can just sit and read and be happy there, sitting and reading and just making sure that the world's a better place if I can, even if it means through different pieces, even if it's through sport, even if it's just through this. I hope it's the end of the day, you want to be thinking ahead. Can you make the world a little bit better for those that are a little bit younger than yourself, like your daughter, for example? And it's one thing that's always important is to take along is that how can I make the next people understand what we've gone through, or understand that there is a huge wide world out there for them, and if they want to, if anything is the limit, and I think we'll bring it up to the next match as well, which is
go ahead, keep it going.
So the last match, I think, won't surprise you at all. Throughout this summer, I've been going to games as many as I can. I've seen so many fantastic games. That opening game against Austria, England, Beth Mead with a nice little chip over her teammate. I've seen who else? I've seen Belgium play Iceland at Man City, and really interesting to see both those teams because you don't know much about them. And then you see one player, the Wolfsburg player, who actually played a huge part in knocking Arsenal out in the Champions League. Jons Jota with a big throw, or being silky skills, or she was just causing mayhem, and it was just really unlucky that time that she didn't score. But even then, I'll go through that. I've been to 2 Netherlands matches, Netherlands versus Switzerland, so I got to see my favourite player, Leah Walty. The wall of Walty is there.
We were waiting for the mention.
But even seeing some of my other favourites that aren't there anymore. Also, Danny van der Donk and Jill Roord, both of them not playing at Arsenal anymore. But seeing Danny van der Donk score one of the goals of the tournament against Portugal,
wonderful, wasn't it? I know that.
Wonders through the defence, and it was what makes it even sweeter is it was the goal that was secured the 3 points and qualification for the next round for her, and she just hits it right into the top corner, and you're just thinking, yeah, you kind of got to stand up and applaud that because that was fantastic. I'm trying to think of the other games that I went to. The side them ones. No, I think I've mentioned them all apart from this one. So I got really lucky with this one, and that was the final. And I think I will share this with you because if there was any other Oh, let's zoom in.
He's bringing something up on my screen. What's he doing?
So that is my reaction to the goal.
Well, I add it up onto the thing.
Yep,
Hold on.
yep, gone. I don't know if I can out zoom.
I can do it that way. There you go.
There we go. So that is my reaction to the Chloe Kelly goal, and that was filmed by Lottie. So I'll stop sharing that now.
Brilliant.
But that whole day you're going through, and I just going through that tournament itself. I think when we were sat and watched Spain together, I don't think we were thinking we were going to go through. We didn't think we were going to go through, and then Alatun goes and does something, goes and scores last minute equaliser, and go, right, okay, settle down a little bit. Let's try and get this over and done with. And what was fantastic, I think I must have shouted the roof down again. It must have been a bit similar to that photo there, which funny enough Lossie took, was when Georgia Stanway hits that ball and it's gone in.
I can picture it.
I always go back to that stat, and I think I've put this stat as one of my favourite stats. It was 3% 3% chance of that going in from that distance.
Right.
That's you just don't think it's possible. But even then, you go through to the semi-final against Sweden, and you're thinking they just literally just. I was quite nervous already on the day, thinking I don't know how this is going to go, because Sweden are a better side. You're coming up against the silver medalist in the Olympics, Stina Blackstenius, striker for Arsenal. She'll know this team inside out. You've got some of the other Swedish players that also play for Chelsea. So you've also got a few of them that do play for Barcelona. So you do think that that team would have been probably perhaps more favourites than I would have thought we would have been for that. But apparently we were still favourites. But to go and smash them
Hometown crowd. Yeah.
With a hometown crowd, as well. I couldn't believe it. I just could not imagine what it was like. It was just what it would have been like in the stadium. I would have thought that the stadium would have been closing in on itself. Funny enough, that Bramall Lane, you wouldn't even realise that it's actually the stadium because by the way it looks from the outside. Because when you're coming from the train station, it just looks like a load of houses.
Right.
It doesn't actually look like a stadium, and it was really weird. It was really weird because you've got a garage, petrol station right by the stadium as well. It's a really weird stadium but going to that final at Wembley, I think that's not just going to live on forever. I think it's going to be, if you were to put that in time capsule, that'll be one of the first things that you put in there, because things like that, those moments where you sit and watch your team, host nation, take on the Giants against Germany. I know it was tweeted about that. What are the chances that the women's go and bring it home just before the men do against Germany? And I think if you were to put the odds on England to place Germany in tournament, I think they would have been quite low to begin with. So to see that in action, and again, just the whole atmosphere, it was amazing. I don't know how to describe it. I just think that the whole way it was, I think there was a little bit of nerves in the stadium already. But everyone was quite happy. Everyone was still quite jolly and trying to get the atmosphere going. And I'm going to say hats off to the band there as well, because they've been following the team home and away, and they always make sure to bring the band together for the games and trying to get the chants going. It was quite nervous as well, but as soon as that first goal goes in, all you're hearing is that song, and I'm not singing that song until that whistle's blown and we've won it. And then they go and score the equaliser. Just a few more minutes later. I thought it was a bit well deserved, to be honest, because it was very, very much a 50-50 game.
Good game.
And
very, very close each way.
yeah,
Could have been gone anyway.
and I think perhaps as well is if you were to write it down on a script, who would you want to get the winner? Would it be Leah Williamson? Would it be someone like a Millie Bright? Would you think it would be like Rachel Daly, who, for those that don't know, she lost her dad during COVID, and there's a nice little story that Leah Williamson gave her the player of the match when she scored one of her goals. I think it was against Latvia, just to say that I'm not accepting this. You are, because you deserve it a little bit better than I did. And that's I think this team has just that team won't realise what's done until they have all officially retired. I know you've got a few of them that are quite close to retiring already. You've got Jill Scott.
Jill Scott comes to mind straight away, yeah.
Alan White's. But there's nothing to say that maybe 5 years down the line, when a few more of them have officially retired or aren't on finishing anymore, not finishing, have just or starting to starting to close the curtain on their career.
Yeah.
They will realise what they've done. And I think I always try to rewatch. I have been rewatching some of the games as well. And when Gabby Logan closed it with that iconic line as well, they think it's all over. It's only just begun. And
I think it's true telling.
It wasn't just spine tingling. I think it sets a tone. It sets a tone of how unique this women's football is compared to the men's. One thing that did frustrate me through this tournament, especially watching Portugal and Spain, was they were diving on the floor every 5 minutes.
We're not used to seeing that, are we? In the WSL?
No. It was just like you're time wasting for no reason. You're drawing a game 2-2, or you're winning a game, and then you're trying to just waste time when it's like 60 minutes on the clock. There's no point.
Yeah.
But that final, especially for Chloe Kelly and scoring that winner, and Lottie's camera. I thought originally she was videoing, which is why I turned around. And the reason why I showed that face is because that face, I think, is the face of pretty much everyone. Is that they just couldn't believe that it happened, and there's so much passion in there. I know I've got George next to me. He's just sort of there smiling in the background a little bit, and then my mum's got a cowboy hat on, and to think that's her first ever women's international game as well.
Wow, what a day to go.
Yeah. I think looking back at some of these games that I've been extremely lucky to go to, but at the same time, whenever do you get a host tournament? When do you get the chance to go and do that and see these players in action? It's a very much a rarity, because even if it's a European Championships, it's not shared amount equally. It's just a few games here, there, and everywhere. But
yeah,
that final, I think we won't realise the impact, even the players will and the fans will, until, like I say, they've all retired and they've realised what they've done, because that's when their legacy will be set. But their actions at the moment, the way they've been to conduct themselves, the way they've been doing media,
absolutely outstanding.
Yes.
They've got such a lovely respect as well. They've come in onto the pitches as well, haven't they?
Yeah.
The whole of the squad have been out and about, and they've just been getting lovely reactions. And I think for me, it's all about what happens next, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's about upping the attendance in the WSL. It's about keeping them attendances up so high. Wasn't it just wonderful seeing Wembley Stadium? In fact, all the stadiums were so full during the tournament for the most part. And like I said, I'm still new to it, and I completely lost it. And to know the story about, do you want to tell the Chloe Kelly story a little bit as well, and her injuries and stuff?
So Chloe Kelly originally started her career with QPR, and then she eventually got scouted to play for Arsenal. So a lot of people don't know that she actually started her career professionally with Arsenal, and then she moved to Everton. She had a few years with Everton, then moved to City. So that's where she's playing at the moment. But during the COVID season, she actually had an ACL injury, and that cleared her out for most of the season. She was only brought back in January. By that time, she was getting ready, getting her fitness. She wasn't expecting to be in the squad, but she was pushing for it, and she got into. I think she was happy. She was happy to be in that squad for sure. But the fact that she used to ride a bike and get a train from almost from Queen's Park Rangers to Arsenal to train. It's a huge story, but there's so many other stories. You've got the stories of Lucy Bronze working in Domino's and doing a degree. You've got Lotta Ruben-Moy and Alicia Russo going over to America together and training together each day and doing a degree, then coming back over here. Lotta has also been doing her own doodles, and she's got on her parents and other people, like a sister, involved trying to share out the books so that kids can colour them in during the Euros, which was also brilliant to see. There's so many stories in there that you could almost argue that you almost need like an autobiography of all their stories to get the full picture. And I don't think people will realise how good it is at the moment, but I think from here it's going to go further and further, and that's for sure.
Literally today, I saw Georgia Stanway's induction into the Munich squad. Did you see it?
Yes.
She's swinging Sweet Caroline. It's just lovely to see. It's a beautiful thing to see in front of her new teammates in Munich.
Yeah, it's got to be one of those things. You've got to be very brave to do it, and you've got to
beautiful.
I think what also catches people's eye is actually Sarah Zadrazil, the Austrian who we did see a little bit in our group games. She actually had her shorts on. Georgia borrowed her shorts, so I don't know if she hadn't been given a kit yet or anything like that.
Okay.
But but you got to be really brave to sing that song anyway, because they know it's sort of like an English sort of song, because they would have been at the Euros.
It's an anthem, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anthem.
And I think I'm going to take a lot of memories away from this tournament, and I think a lot of other people are as well. There'll be Lottie with her stories. There'll be George with his stories. There'll be other people that we see on this channel that will have their own stories, like yourself, Lee, and G, and everyone else that was just watching at home, or even if they didn't attend. I know Adam travelled pretty much to every game.
Did.
And that was just fantastic to see.
Brilliant stuff, mate. Do you know what? That is an absolutely brilliant way to end a really enjoyable chat. Cannon Chatter Island, Desert Island Kickabout Day. Thank you very much, mate, for spending just about an hour with us tonight. It's been really fun. Matt, would you like to tell people where they can find you on your Twitter and all that stuff?
Yeah, so I am at MattLR28. I am also hoping to restart my writing a little bit, so I'll be probably most likely doing some writing for her football hub soon.
Definitely good stuff. And you can find me on Twitter at GooneyLeeMids. There I am. You can find us here on Cannon Chatter at Cannon Chatter on Twitter. Thank you, everybody who's been watching. Like and subscribe and all that sort of jazz. And most important of all, keep chatting. Thanks for watching.
Bye.